but number one, it's Paul Pierce. Straight up.
I agree. Do you want to start from number 10 to number 1?
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Why not? I threw the name out there. It's Paul Pierce. Paul Pierce is my number 10. Greatest small forward of all time. That is the greatest. That's my favorite basketball player that I've ever watched. The truth, the nickname says it for itself. I mean, he's become underrated by young fans today. His role in the media, it's become more of a joke. So I don't feel like people take him a lot. Really, people don't take him seriously at all. But at the height of his powers, when Paul Pierce was on the court, you could throw any defender at him and he could score from all three phases. All three phases. He'll knock down the three, he'll school you in the mid game, and he'll bully you in the post. He could score on just about anybody. Paul Pierce is legit the truth. So yeah, I got Paul Pierce at number 10. At number 9, I got Dominique Wilkins. Man, I love watching his old dunk highlights, man. That guy could put on a show. So I got Dominique at number 9. At number 8, can any of you guys take a guess who I got at this one?
Rick Barry or Kawhi Leonard?
Oof. Sorry to break it to you. Kawhi didn't make my top 10. Uh, I have Mr. Carlo Anthony. Yes, I do. Call me crazy, man. Call me nuts. But he's the bully. He's a bully. If you threw a smaller defender on him, he'd eat you alive. He's one of the greatest scorers of all time, a top 10. I'd say in his prime, top 5 player in the league, 6-time All NBA selection, 10-time All Star. Uh, Unfortunately, I think the crime with with Melo was really just him buying into being a teammate, and just feeding into that because there were certain times where it was I forgot when was it with the Knicks where I'm going on a tangent.
When Jeremy Lin broke out?
Yeah, yeah. If he just bought into the team instead of there's no I in team. I just feel like that he always got in his own way. I feel like Melo could have been a championship player, but he just stood in his own way. But still, as an individual, he's a highlight reel. You tune into some highlights with him and with the Nuggets, his early days with the Knicks, Melo's a problem, one of the greatest scorers you'll ever see. Number 7, I have a hard time pronouncing the name, but John Havlicek.
You got it.
Got it right. There we go. I guess I don't need. I'll let you do the history on that one, but his accolades and his numbers speak for themselves. Number 6, I got the King Elgin Baylor. No titles to his name, but plenty of title appearances too. You got to give him some respect. What's up, Brandon?
He's got one championship. He won his
I felt
last year.
bad. Technically, he retired
Yeah.
right after that season began. So if you go to Basketball Reference, I'm going to check to see if they actually have him listed with the title. They
I
don't.
guess not, Justin, you're probably right, but whatever.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
it
he
didn't
only
change
appeared
his
in 9
legacy,
games.
I guess, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And by then, he wasn't. Injuries after
Yeah.
the 1970 season really took him out his last 2 years. And the year before, he only played 2 games. That was the second year with Wilt. So devastating injuries for him. Otherwise, he would have had one.
I got Baylor at number 6. At number 5, I have Scotty Tuhati. I got Scotty Pippen at number 5. I really probably the greatest wingman the game has ever seen, the greatest Robin ever. Elite defender, could guard anybody's top scorer on any given night. He'll strap him up. 6-time champ, 7 All NBA selections, 7 All Star appearances, 8 All Defensive teams. You really can't. I don't think there's a more complete player than Pippen. What a great slasher too. He just like I said, he's probably the greatest wingman ever. And nowadays in the NBA, nobody. I mean, in the history of the NBA, nobody wins on their own and everybody's looking for that second piece to complement their star. If everybody had found themselves, everybody's looking for their Pippin, and those guys just don't grow on trees. At number 4, I got the King Julius Irving. I mean, the guy was Jordan before Jordan. If he spent most of his career in the NBA, his numbers would be even more astronomical. But I got Jules at number 4, and number 3, I got KD. And you can't really go wrong. The Slim Reaper is probably the most talented, literally the most talented scorer of all time. I love watching this guy play, and he may be a snake to so many people. He may go down as with the 2 cheapest championships in the world, but talent wise, you can never go wrong. Kevin Durant is a absolute monster. Number two, I got Larry Legend. One thing I love about Larry, and I love to hear the stories about his past, about how cocky he was and his confidence. Oh my gosh, how you can walk into a room with tons of NBA All Stars and say, "All right, guys, which one of you guys are coming in second?" Like, dude, that is insane. I've heard so many stories of. I think he was talking trash to Gary Payton, just straight up telling him where he's gonna shoot the ball, where do you want it next, just let yo. Probably the greatest trash talker in NBA history is Larry Legend. And number one, you can't go wrong. The true king. I've said king about 3 times in this thing, but the person that really stands on the throne is LeBron James. I'm not even gonna go into details as to why. I don't think it's a debate.
We should go into detail for LeBron.
Should I?
Yeah. He's the
Should
best
I?
player of all time to some people.
To me, he is. LeBron is legit my NBA king. I remember vividly. I'll take you guys back a couple years when he was playing in Miami and he was going up against the Knicks in the Garden. Dude, I couldn't afford these seats, but I got handed tickets by my cousin, and I'm sitting right, like so close to the basket, right behind. It's the fourth quarter. It's a close game, and Miami just starts to break away. LeBron's making big plays. He makes a block on one end, comes down the other, and throws it down. He stares at the crowd. I felt like this guy was staring into my soul. And he just screamed at the crowd, just let out a big yell. And at that moment, I was just like, "Oh my gosh, I'm witnessing probably the greatest player ever play basketball." I was in awe. This 12-year-old or 11-year-old me witnessing this kind of greatness. LeBron James, how many eight straight finals appearances? Goes to the West, the Wild Wild West, and goes and wins an NBA Finals. Guys, I don't think it's really a debate, and you guys know it. When you're talking about greatest NBA players of all time, LeBron's on it. When you're talking greatest athletes of all time, you're talking LeBron James. Greatest leaders of all time, LeBron James is in that conversation as well. He's number one. There's no debate. If any of you guys have him not at number one, I'll just quit the podcast.
18 All NBA teams.
Jesus.
And those aren't, those like some players later in their career, they'll get, reputation votes and awards. LeBron, all 18 of those seasons, was a top 5 player. Arguably the best. Nearly 2 decades of being the best player in the league is something else. Now, Justin, I'm not going to let you get away with not having Kawhi Leonard in your top 10. That, to me, is ridiculous.
Is it?
Kawhi Leonard has been a playoff megastar.
Mm-hmm.
He had the one bad series against Denver. Outside of that, you know what? Let me jump into my top 10. Oh, man. So, some honorable mentions. One of New York's very own, Chris Mullin. I think I should shout him out. Obviously, I talked about before Paul George and Jimmy Butler. Jimmy is a player who I think could be in the top 10 by the end of his career. A superstar through and through in the postseason that elevates his teammates. And if Philadelphia gave him a second opportunity to run it back, I think he could be saying he's an NBA champion at this point. Instead, he goes to Miami and takes a LeBron James Lakers team with Anthony Davis to 6 games instead of Goran Dragic playing two of those appearances, wasn't himself, and Bam Adebayo not being himself for that entire series. So I think Jimmy, he has a very good case for passing up James Worthy, who I have at number 10. Paul Pierce, as well as another name, Finals MVP. I think Worthy had won. Basically, he's also a Finals MVP. I think people forget this. In the 89 Finals, he dropped 36, 16, and 10. Think about that. That is, he was on the Showtime teams, the third piece, but an incredible one at that. And he's very much in the company of, Robert Parrish, Chris Bosh. I think he gets very underrated all the time. Only a 2-time All-NBA player, but a 3-time champ nonetheless. Number 9, we have Rick Barry, another Finals MVP. There's some pretty interesting Rick Barry stories out there. I think he's underrated for the simple fact that if he played in today's league, I mean, he was a true innovator of the sport, one of the greatest shooters, a historical icon for the granny foul shots. But Justin, I mean, your Knicks had the opportunity to draft him, and what year is it? 1965, and they didn't. And so I think it was as a rookie, they took Bill Bradley with that pick. I think it was 50 points he dropped in the Garden, and from there, I mean, truly one of the most underrated players. 4-time All NBA, All ABA, and 6-time All NBA. So 10 All NBA teams altogether with 12 All Star appearances. Number 8, I have Elgin Baylor. In terms of numbers, I mean, he's one of the 4 or 5 most productive small forwards, but him not having an NBA title ultimately is what holds him back in this list. One of only 10 players that make 10 All NBA teams, which is a lot. And may he rest in peace. Man, he fought a lot during his career. I wish he could have actually had that NBA title because I would consider having him in my top 7. John Havlicek is my number 7 player. Maybe the most underrated NBA player of all time. I think I dubbed Gary Payton that man in our point guard episode. John Havlicek, you look at his accolades. Number 1, he won 2 NBA titles without Bill Russell and was the Finals MVP. Altogether, he had 8 NBA titles. I don't know. Yeah. So he's this is insane. 11-time All NBA, 8-time All Defense, and no one talks about him as one of the 4 or 5 greatest Celtics of all time. It's like his name is almost completely forgotten about because he played in the 70s. I understand that was a weaker era for the sport, but post Bill Russell, he was a player that continued the Celtics tradition in the legacy. Now, he did play with Bill Cowens on the Celtics teams, who was a Finals MVP or an MVP, excuse me. But nonetheless, I think John Havlicek might be the most underappreciated legend from that era of basketball. Just truly a superstar. Number 6, sorry. I have Scottie Pippen. You said it before, Justin. The greatest wingman of all time. And we forget in 94, he could have went to the conference finals and potentially an NBA championship would have been there for him without Michael Jordan in his age 27 season. And then he goes to Portland when he's, 33 years old, 34? And he takes a Laker team that won 67 games to 7. And it took every ounce of a young Kobe and Shaq just to get past Scottie Pippen, Steve Smith, Rasheed Wallace. Those Blazers teams won almost 60 games. And if it weren't for those Lakers, I think Scottie would have gotten to the finals at some point in Portland. I mean, the Lakers swept him the following 2 seasons. Man, Scottie Pippen, the top 6, top 5 player in the league, in a game where all the elite players outside him and Michael Jordan were big men. Isaiah Thomas was in that camp for a little bit, and then his career ended shortly. So I think Scottie, 10-time All Defense, 7-time All NBA, was still capable of a lot more than just being the greatest number 2 of all time. Number 5, I have Kawhi Leonard. This is where he should be. He ended what would have been 2 three-peats. 2 Finals MVPs. Playoff superstar. The dude is the most complete forward outside KD and LeBron of this era. And those are 2 top 3 players at this position. If it weren't for injuries, I think I'd have him above Julius Erving at number 4. But ultimately, man, I mean, Justin, what is your reasoning not having Kawhi in your top 10? Because that's really what's been bothering me during this entire. I've been wanting to get to this.
Honestly, because I
Is it the
wanted to
injuries?
troll you guys. Paul Pierce is. I had to put him on the list, and if somebody had to get the boot, it had to be him. I'm
Kawhi has
sorry.
2 Defensive Player of the Year, so 2
Listen,
Finals
I
MVP.
love the claw. I won't knock it. There's no flaw in the guy's game whatsoever. There's none. I'm not knocking him. I could have went in a lot of different directions. I could have taken Melo off the list. I'm sure he's not on neither of your lists anyway. He's already not.
I forgot, yeah, Melo at number 8.
Yeah, so I had Melo there. I love Melo, and I mean, I could have taken out Dominique Wilkins in his place. That's the only other one, but I truly believe Paul Pierce and Carmelo are top 10. So, yeah.
Why?
Why? Why are they top 10 or why are they top 10 over Kawhi?
Why are they top 10 over Kawhi?
Okay, see, that's my thing. I could have put Kawhi over Dominique, but I only put a human highlight reel there. That's it. That's just me. Honestly, I wanted to troll you guys. I love throwing the little twist there for you guys.
If you weren't trolling Brandon and I, where would Kawhi be?
I'd put him 9. Or probably between 9, 8 or 9. I'd flip flop him over Melo.
I'm sorry, he's ahead of Elgin Baylor all time, dude. I love Elgin Baylor as a legend, but the 1960s and the 2010s are incomparable. The level of difficulty, and just like Elgin, Kawhi produced. He's been a role player. He's been a superstar. That Toronto run was one of the greatest of all time. That was
Absolutely. I like I said, I'm not gonna. I have no knock on Kawhi Leonard. Zero. Yeah, I could have flip flopped him in or out. I just, I believe Paul Pierce and Melo are top 10, and I wanted to find their place. So, out of respect for the old school basketball, and out of respect for the ones that I grew up watching and loving, that's what I went with.